We are just at the beginning of 3 days of really intensive, really magical work that I know is going to be so powerful and so potent. We're going to be diving into all things self love and specifically self love coaching. I actually have a presentation that I created for you to make it as easy as possible for you to take in and integrate all the information. And I'll be going back and forth between the presentation and our community connection on Zoom. And then with the replay, I'll actually share the presentation slides with you so you can review. Before we begin, I want to make sure that you have something that you can write with. So, a journal, a pen and paper. It could even be if you're on your computer or your phone, like your notes app, that's fine. But because today, day one, we're focusing on self love foundations, we're going to be doing some inner work and some processing. And the modality that we're going to use today is going to be primarily some journaling. So, really excited. And make sure that you have that available. Make sure you have some water. I have water here. And if I ever sound short of breath, it's because I'm 22 weeks pregnant. And I'm like always out of breath, just my hormones and carrying baby girl. So I'm really excited to join you at this particular moment in time. Yay. All right, let's dive in. So 3 days. Day one, self-love foundations. Day two, which is tomorrow, coaching as a career. And day three, manifesting your dream life. And so today, we're going to be talking about the framework that I teach in my full certification. This is like a very brief overview that we're doing over these 3 days, which is going to be a great refresher for those of you who have done this work before, a great introduction for those of you who are new to this work, really wherever you're at. It's going to meet you, I think, in a really beautiful spot. So if we haven't met, because I know some of you are new, I'm Melanie. I'm trained in a whole bunch of different modalities: archetypal psychology, energy healing, intuitive eating, yoga, fitness, so many things. I started my career in this industry as a yoga teacher and fitness instructor in New York City. And I found that so many people knew how to take care of their bodies, but weren't actually putting in the mindset work to be able to love themselves. It's like the same women were coming to my classes again and again and like hating themselves more and more. And I was like, something's wrong here. And I went to nutrition school and I thought, well, maybe if I offer this full, like holistic view of health, that'll help. But then even after I was bringing people into awareness of how to eat healthfully, like we all know generally how to eat healthfully. It's just about caring for our individual bodies. And I realized self-love was really the thing. So then I started self-love coaching. And at the time, there were no self-love coach certifications available. I created the first one after I had been doing this work for a while. And I asked folks, or I had folks ask me to mentor them. And I was like, who am I to create a certification course? Like, what? I really never thought I would be doing this work, but because it wasn't available and had been working in this modality that people were seeing really incredible results with, it was clear that there was a calling. And so I created the Self-Love Coach certification course. For me, this all stems from turning pain into purpose. So I've gone through my own trauma. I know so many of you have gone through your own challenging lived experiences, different symptoms and expressions of what that looks like in your body and in your day-to-day life. So many people who come into my programs have experienced anxiety and depression and disconnection from their bodies and toxic relationships. I mean, there's so many ways that our past lived experiences turn into cycles. And so I'm really passionate about helping people address those cycles so that they can be free and liberated and live in their most authentic, confident, true self. I have, as a business owner, made over $1 million in revenue, which is wild. I have students from over 20 countries and thousands of community members, and I've been working in the industry for over a decade. A couple of things that I'm really proud of with my work specifically, is that I've given away more in scholarships than I have received in personal income. And when it comes to the coaching industry, the inclusion and diversity of our programs is 90% greater than the industry standard. And our course success rate is 90% better than the industry standard. Only, I think, 5% of people who sign up for a course actually finish it. We're more like 95%, which I think speaks to the level of real care and compassion that we all hold in this community. So I want to talk about some of the effects of self-love, and you are more than welcome. I'm going to just share this. You're more than welcome to use the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on it if questions or things come up that you want to share. I'm going to go through, because I've been sharing specifically training self-love coaches since 2020. And so we're in the 6th year. And I want to share some stories of what people have shared at the end of their training. So these are all stories that have been pulled with permission from people's assessment at the end of the program. So there's a written assessment that at the end of my certification program, people do. And there's an opportunity to share an overview of what their experience was like and where they started to where they ended. And I love looking at these and sharing these because it gives you a real life example of what the lived experience is when you invest in self-love for yourself, and also in turning your passion for self-love into a career. So Krista, way back in 2020, shared that she started as a person that didn't like herself. And she didn't even realize how much, in her words, she was destroying herself before the program. But through the program and through, what I mean by that is like the self-love work, right? She learned how to recognize the hurt girl from her past. She learned who she was, and she gave her past closure, and that gave her the courage to cut out toxic relationships and to really finally be in authenticity and sovereignty in her life. She manifested buying a house during the program. She realized she deserved more in life. She created an exit plan to leave a toxic job. And that was her lived experience. And this was back in 2020. 2021, Roxanne came into the program and she said, I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago compared to when she started the program. And she was so excited to help people with what she had learned. She felt intimidated and unsure of herself at the beginning, but because she gathered tools into her toolbox, she felt she could speak from experience and connect with others and speak from her heart, and her confidence grew. And the question of, will I be a good coach, wasn't even a question anymore at the end of the program, because she knew what she was capable of. Michelle in 2022 said that she was more open in this program than any other program, and that other programs she had taken were overwhelming and difficult to follow, but this one was really easy, relatively, compared to those other programs, and that she found a safe space. So this speaks to the community care that is really important. Even though it's a self-love journey, we still need to have that connectivity with others, and that's why I wanted to highlight this. And she said, I initially thought this would be another certificate to add to my resume, but it ended up being so much more. 2023, Nicole comes into the program. She said, I've always been drawn to this work, and I didn't think I had what it took. I didn't think I had any value. How many of us have had experiences like that, like the imposter syndrome? We're like, can I even do this? But then she dedicated herself to the journey. She found it to be inspiring and empowering. Again, so many tools that she cultivated that helped her feel confident, and that she has so many tools she didn't even realize were tools. Like she was able to tap into, and we're going to do some of this on day 3, but she was able to tap into wisdom that she didn't even realize was there, and was excited to share it with the world. And she finally had the confidence and courage to do it. In 2024, Zetta came into our program, and she said that she grew immensely, not only in her personal journey, but in her confidence and readiness to embrace the role as a self-love coach. She was filled with excitement for the future and a deep sense of fulfillment for the progress that she made. And then more recently this year, Kayleen, such a sweet, tender soul, came into the program, and she said she lacked confidence and trust in herself. She'd had an abusive relationship, and it left her struggling with anxiety. and she was reading self-help books, but nothing was working, and coaching was her last resort. And it actually worked for her. She made drastic improvements. She was more confident and loving towards herself. She stopped experiencing panic attacks, stopped relying on alcohol to help her feel calm. It changed her life in a positive way. And that was her dedication to really learning and embodying self-love. I know many of you here have your own self-love journey. So if you want to share whether or not you've done any of my programs, you want to share in the chat some of how self-love has changed your life to inspire other people here, I would love to invite you to do that. So imagine what's possible for you. And this is an ever-evolving journey, right? So these stories are examples from people who were in a 6-month, 7-month program that allowed them the opportunity to just invest the time and energy into their journey, allowed them the opportunity to cultivate the resources to tend to themselves, and offered the community and guidance that often is lacking when we're trying to do this all on our own. What is a self-love coach? That's what we're talking about in our 3 days together. A self-love coach is a leader, advocate, and mentor who empowers their community and clients to fully accept and love themselves. A self-love coach helps people become their most authentically confident self by confronting limiting beliefs, habits, and blocks. We center coaching in the self-love framework specifically because it allows a deep appreciation for what is. So we're not shaming ourselves into change. Like, you can't hate yourself into a transformation, but we can motivate ourselves into growth from that place of love, which is why self-love is such a powerful, transformative framework to follow. We combine intuition with comprehensive wellness and psychological tools. We walk purposefully through life, knowing we're meant to make the world a better place by inspiring and empowering others. And the core belief that I hold and that I love to help other people cultivate is that through healing ourselves, we can heal the world, right? Hurt people, and healing people inspire other people to heal. So beautiful. Okay, we're going to dive in to our core framework, and I'm going to pause here because that was a lot of information. If there are any questions, anything you want to share, you're welcome to use the chat, the comments. Moya says, I'm so excited to learn from you. I love love. I'm really good at loving on others and on myself, but when I'm doing good, but I struggle with loving on myself when I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, that's a really common experience. Robin says, I've done a few of Melanie's courses. I went from burnout, overwhelm, and a shell of myself to stepping into my full purpose and found new calm and clarity. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, so good to feel that and receive that. Okay, I'm like working hard. I'm going to take off my sweater. I feel baby girls like dancing around and really excited too by all of this. So we're going to go into the self-love roadmap. This is the foundational tool that I created after I had been coaching women specifically on their relationship to their bodies, but now it's transcended to so much more. I mean, you saw from the stories that I shared, like, this is not just about your relationship to your body, it's your relationship to everything in your life. And the framework was developed because I realized that my clients were all following a similar pattern. And this was really in the context of one-on-one work. And I created this framework because I wanted to do a workshop. I remember it was like one of the first workshops I ever hosted in my business. This was way before the certification course. And I was like, how do I condense this or like break this out so that it's easy for people to understand, that it can be replicated and is true to what I have witnessed in my experience of coaching women. So I created the self-love roadmap. It's actually more of a cycle, and one of our team members, Soraya, even calls it the self-love cycle, but she looks at it that way. And so that's how I'm going to bring it into awareness for you all. It's something that I return to again and again. So I've been doing this for so many years, and it is a tool that never gets old. It's a tool that will be with you through any lived experience. It carried me through having PTSD. It carried me through grief of losing my mom and my grandmother. It's carried me through so much. And so I'm really excited to share this with you. And the way we're going to look at it is I'll go through what each step is and what it feels like and what it looks like. And then we're actually going to do a practice around it so that you can experience the fullness of the roadmap in a relatively short amount of time. And this is going to be a bite-sized experience of it compared to what it looks like to go through 6 months of it, or even just integrating it into your life from here on out. But I think it'll still be I know it'll still be really powerful. So let's dive in. The first step of the self-love roadmap is self-forgiveness. And this is the first step because we can't move forward without doing this. Like, this is the root foundation. It's also, for most people, the hardest step. So it's like, if we can get through this, it's a lot easier to get to the next ones. Self-forgiveness is a healing process that allows you to release the emotional weight of past mistakes and hurt, right? So when you're holding on to the resentment for yourself or towards yourself or resentment for other people, it is really hard to move forward. This foundational step is about forgiving not only yourself, but also those who contributed to your past emotional wounds, which I know really is really hard because so many of us have been harmed. And we're like, oh my gosh, what did I do to deserve that? I didn't do anything, or we're holding on to that resentment. But when we let it go, it's really for us. It's not about the other people. And when you let go of the grudges, resentments, and harmful beliefs, it liberates you. As I said earlier, hurt people hurt people. And self-forgiveness means recognizing that everyone, including yourself, is simply a product of their lived experiences, right? And you have the choice of your lived experience to say, will I let this define me and harden me into somebody who doesn't have tolerance for other people, or somebody who perpetuates harm because of the harm I've experienced? Or will I let this experience tap me into greater empathy and compassion? And will I allow this to facilitate a pathway where I become an inspiration for people? And that's the path that we choose, right? This doesn't mean that accountability and self-responsibility aren't necessary. It offers us a pathway to healing through compassion. Is that clear? Yes. So that's why we do self-forgiveness first. Now you're going to get your journal. And I invite you to take a breath before we dive all the way into this. So center yourself, maybe even place a hand on your heart, close your eyes, feeling your heart expand with your inhalation, feeling your body soften with your exhalation. And now that you are present and connected and grounded, I invite you to consider a past experience or belief system that has formed a negative opinion about who you are. So this, in the context of when I first started my business, was often the belief system my clients held at that point in time, because my focus was on body relationships, because that was so much of my lived experience was like disordered eating and hating my body, was if I am not like super perfect and skinny and whatever, my physical appearance, I am not worth being loved. That was the negative opinion, right? And so I want you to think about a past experience or belief system that formed a negative opinion about who you are. And we'll acknowledge that these are simply belief systems. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It's just a belief system that you hold. And then once you identify that, I want you to write down in your journal, I forgive myself for believing that, and you insert the belief system. So in the context that I shared the example, I forgive myself for believing that my worth was dependent on my physical appearance, or my worth was dependent, really specifically with my clients, on weight, right? So I'm going to give you a second to write that down. And you are also more than welcome to share this in the chat. And I think you'll inspire people if you do. And I would also just love to hear if it doesn't feel too vulnerable or tender. Beautiful. I know that can feel heavy, like we dropped in the deep end, but don't worry, we're going to move into the next step. I'm going to check in the chat if anybody feels called to share. I'll keep an eye on it. Moving forward, the next step of the roadmap is self-acceptance. So let's talk about what that is. Moya says, I forgive myself for thinking my worth was ever contingent on anything external outside of myself. It's so powerful to say that, right? Like, I actually would love to encourage you all just reading yours out loud. I can feel the shift of that. Actually, I'm going to deepen this exercise intuitively right now. I invite you all to read out loud, if you can, what you wrote. Like, just really feel it. I forgive myself for thinking my worth was ever contingent on anything external outside of myself. Oh. And just notice when you say your statement of forgiveness out loud, how you feel. Moya's is already crying. Yeah. And Myra, oh, I love the M names. So beautiful. Myra says, I forgive myself for believing and thinking that my worth was dependent on my weight and how my body should look or be in order to be beautiful enough or even worthy to be loved. Yeah. Relatable. Absolutely. And saying that is like such an act of self-love in and of itself. I forgive myself for overly giving in exchange for feeling loved. I can really feel, like, can you all feel the energetic shift when you say this out loud? Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. Thank you all for sharing. And it's absolutely normal to feel the tears, to feel whatever wants to come through. The next step of our roadmap is self-acceptance, which is nuanced. It's not as simple as just, I accept myself. We're going to go into it. Oh, Myra says, my heart feels heavy and crying. It's a good release. Moya says, feels like power. Yes. Self-acceptance. So shame is the shadow root of a lack of self-acceptance. So something that we don't accept about ourselves is because we feel ashamed of it. And by releasing that, by freeing ourselves of shame, we're obviously able to be in authenticity. It's a healing practice of recognizing your inherent worth and unlimited potential. So the practice that we're going to do, you're going to cross one wrist over the other, make a butterfly. You're going to place this over your heart and you're going to tap one collarbone at a time. The reason why we do this is because it stimulates the two hemispheres of your brain, which aids in new neural connections, new pathways. So if you have a pathway right now that's like, oh, like, even if it's subconscious, like feeling shamed, like, I hate this part, I'm so ashamed of this part, nobody can know about this, or I'm trying to hide this, right? We're going to create a new pathway that counters that. So you're going to butterfly tap in a rhythm that feels good to you. It doesn't matter. There's no right way to do this. And I want you to repeat after me, either out loud or in your mind, ideally out loud if you can. I accept that the past has happened. I accept where I am now. I accept that I can have a new perspective and make new choices from this point onwards. We're going to do that again. I accept that the past has happened. I accept where I am now. I accept that I can have a new perspective and make new choices from this point onwards. One more time. I accept that the past has happened. I accept where I am now. I accept that I can have a new perspective and make new choices from this point onwards. And you can just place your hands in stillness over your heart and feel your breath. Perhaps close your eyes and just notice what is shifting within you. And I'm going to allow you to sit in this for about 30 seconds. So just holding it here, basking in it. Whenever you're ready, you can come back and open your eyes. And I would love to hear in the chat how you feel. There's so many ways to practice self-acceptance. I wanted to bring in a somatic tool, meaning a body tool to get your body involved and to work with the brain, obviously, because it's one thing to understand a concept. It's another to like feel it and embody it. And this is just one of a million tools you can do. But I love this one because it's simple, it's easy. And the other part of acceptance that I talk about when in this stage is looking at like what's not acceptable, right? It's like, well, really, it's not acceptable for me to believe this about myself, or like, I don't want to accept that I'm not worthy, right? And so there's, I suppose, a radical self-responsibility piece here. It's like, what are you willing to accept? Like, how can we hold acceptance for what is while still realizing we can change at the same time, right? Oh, Robin says brighter and lighter. Mandika says, wow, my Reiki hands are on fire. Beautiful. Maya says optimistic, light, less tense, brighter and lighter. It allowed me to focus my growth and allowing myself to be in accept the release. So valuable to exercise self-compassion. Feels like much easier offering it to others. Yeah, absolutely can. So relieved and free. Yes, I love to hear it. Beautiful. So the second piece of this, write in your journal or in the chat. What have you been accepting that is no longer aligned with your authentic self? So this could be a belief about yourself. It could be a habit, but I invite you to be really gentle. Like this isn't a New Year's resolution. Like I am no longer doing this, want to be really gentle and compassionate. So what have you been accepting that is no longer aligned with your authentic self? And then secondly, and this is on your screen, what is the new belief or behavior you will transform this into? Right. So to go off of the example of what I worked on with my clients back in the day, which is like feeling like forgiving myself that my worth was directly tied to my weight and appearance. I'm no longer accepting that I will hate myself depending on my body, or that that my love is contingent on what I look like. The new belief is I am unconditionally loved. So those are examples that you can work with. And I would love to hear in the chat, but I'm going to give you a moment to write down and consider. Okay, I'm seeing the chat come in. That working unnecessarily hard will help people to see me. Oh, yeah, the productivity tied to worth thing. I have learned to listen to my body more, slow days and slow mornings. Yes. So beautiful. I'm no longer accepting others' opinions to dictate my life. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so powerful. I love these. Y'all are welcome to keep them coming. We are going to move forward. I know we're moving quickly. We have only an hour, so this is like hyper speed, but so fun. The next step, the third step is self-gratitude. And gratitude, the way we teach it here, a little bit different than just like doing a gratitude affirmation or gratitude journaling. You all probably already know like the benefits of gratitude and why it's like it's an all-purpose healing balm for your heart. Like it's just it works every time. It's so good. Gratitude helps heal negative thought patterns and emotional wounds by bringing awareness to the uplifting and hopeful parts of who you are in your life. We do this step third so that we don't accidentally drop into toxic positivity or bypass the sitting with the uncomfortable emotions and the parts of us that really need to be loved. And by practicing it now, you're reinforcing the authentic positive parts of who you are. So this isn't like the stuff that you forgive yourself for and that you're accepting or not no longer accepting. It's not bad, right? We want to bring love to those parts of us. And then we want to reinforce that love, strengthen that love with gratitude. So next step of our framework in terms of your integration, write in your journal and in the chat, what are you grateful for about who you are? And I want you to go deeper with this one if you can. So consider how a past challenge has shaped you in a positive way. So you could certainly say like, I'm so grateful for, my ability to find hope even in times of despair, but perhaps there's something that shaped that, right? And a way that you can transmute a challenging lived experience into the reason why you have this really beautiful part of who you are. And I invite you to share it in the chat when you are ready. Moya says, my ability to shift my perspectives and mindsets to find silver linings and turn even the biggest shitstorm into a beautiful garden. I love that metaphor. So beautiful. Yeah, it's so wonderful to be grateful for that. What else are you all grateful for? I'm grateful for my ability to be compassionate to others, even when I struggle to give myself grace at times. Glenessia says that. So wonderful. Lizette Saji says, not giving up on myself and believing in my dreams. Casey says, I'm so grateful for my devotion to myself, to the people in my life, the earth, the path I meant to be on. Oh, I love how different and unique these all are too. Alphine says, I'm grateful for allowing my trauma to deepen my heart and change my perspective in the world in a more positive, loving way. Mantika says, I'm grateful for the gift of faith and spirit, no matter the challenges faced. Yes. Oh, thank you for sharing. These are so inspiring. iPhone 7, I don't know who that is, but says, I'm deeply grateful that I put in the effort to express my thoughts and emotions. It strengthened my self-esteem and boosted my confidence. Yes. Perfect. All right. Now we're feeling like, notice how you feel, share in the chat. How do you feel after tapping into that gratitude, right? We like did some of the heavy work, did some somatic processing, reinforced the positive. Like, I hope you're feeling really good. the next step of, yes, I'll give you notes to this slideshow. I know we're going through so fast. This is meant to be an intensive, immersive experience. The next step is self-care. Self-care here doesn't just look like tending to your body, mental well-being, or physical space. Self-care in this framework asks, how can I hold deeper reverence for myself? And what would this look like in practice? Okay, so what is the action needed for you to demonstrate your reverence for yourself? And I use reverence here intentionally, right? Like usually, at least for me, when I hear reverence, I think of this almost like divinatory devotion, right? This level of like sacred connection. So what does it look like for you to practice that level of devotion, that level of reverence for yourself in action? Yeah, like a practice that allows it. So I found that when I was on my journey of healing my relationship to my body and working with clients on the same thing later on, this act of self-care was not weighing myself. Or like the act of self-care was not actively not comparing myself to other people. The act of self-care was like really just being in joy and pleasure in my body. So there's different ways this could look, right? There's no wrong or right answer. So I'll wait for you all to share in the chat, and then why I see your question here. So we'll have a Q&A at the end. So I'll add that into my list for the Q&A. Okay, see your comments. I need to give myself permission to be irrational sometimes, have a tendency to rationalize my feelings and in turn invalidate myself. Wow, that is so perceptive. But recognize that I can do it. Yes. So no longer invalidating yourself and really allowing yourself to like be emotional, it sounds like. Robin says, embodied presence in everyday relationship with myself. Yes. Anacia says, I feel like it's being able to respect my boundaries. It's a big one. But most importantly, knowing what they are and giving myself grace when I fail at upholding boundaries. Yeah. Beautiful. I love these. All right, you can keep them coming. We're going to move to the next step in the meantime, which is the last one. So we're almost at the end. And this one's pretty simple comparatively. Self-trust. This is so life-changing. So life-changing. I want you to actually consider, like, I think I'm going to do this practice. I have this practice set up for later, but I feel called to do it now. On a scale of 1 to 10, just like really tune in with yourself, no judgment, no trying to like rationalize or shame yourself for anything or find the right answer. Just first thing that comes into your mind on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you trust yourself? 10 being you fully trust yourself, 1 being like you're constantly in self-doubt. It's just good to know. There's no judgment. You know, I want you to consider, what does it look like for you to fully trust yourself? Like, how do you show up in your life when you are free of the burden of like full self-doubt, where you're constantly second guessing yourself or constantly questioning everything that you do? Like, what does it look like for you to show up in your life when you are anchored into knowing like your every decision that you make, you trust yourself to do it in a way that is aligned? The conversations you have, the connections you make, the goals that you set. Okay. This is a really good question. Before I talk to people or after? So that's key, right? That gives you information for self-care, is to know how, when, and what boundaries to set, right? So that you're not so affected. And maybe this is part of a self-forgiveness, is like forgiving yourself for being so affected by other people, diminishing your self-trust. There's a difference between figuring out what you want to do and talking to somebody who is holding space for your processing and decision making versus somebody who's telling you what to do. And we're going to talk more about that tomorrow in coaching, like the professionalism of coaching and coaching as a career, because a good coach is not going to give you advice. They're holding space for you to tap into your own inner wisdom. But that looks different in relationships and friendships with family and such. So it's nice to have relationships with people who, and this could be friends, I certainly have friends who just hold space for me to find my own inner wisdom rather than tell me what they think I should do. That's my piece on that. Okay, so I'm seeing your numbers on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being fully trusting, 1 being full of self-doubt, 5, 7, 5, 8, 9, 10, 7, 7, 7. Yes. 10, beautiful. 8. But when I talk to some people, it goes down to a 4. Some of you can relate to that. 8, 5. Yeah, we're all over, but that's okay, right? Now you have this awareness. And that awareness is the first step to creating some of that shift. Self-trust is the end result of practicing the previous 4 steps: the self-forgiveness, self-acceptance, self-gratitude, self-care. When you trust yourself, you make decisions with clarity and confidence. You hold more resilience in life, right? So even when something doesn't go according to plan, even when you seemingly fail, even when you make a mistake, because you will, self-trust does not equal perfection, right? That's absolutely not what this is. You know that you can get back into a place of love for yourself. You know that you can repair with yourself and with other people in a way that creates a pathway forward that is compassionate. You hold more resilience in life. You know that no matter what, you won't abandon yourself. And in turn, you won't abandon other people. Self-trust is the antidote to self-doubt. So we already did this. I told you I wanted to do it first. On a scale of 1 to 10. The key to developing self-trust is to practice all 5 steps of the roadmap, but you can also strengthen self-trust by making decisions that feel like a yes in your body. Even if that's just like, am I going to drink tea this morning or coffee? Or am I going to have, am I going to do yoga today or go for a walk? Or am I going to use my rose face cleanser or some witch hazel? These are decisions I would make about myself, but you have your own, I'm sure, right? Like easy decisions, choices in your life, and then just choose what feels like a yes in your body, low stakes. So you can choose a big decision for this as well if you want to, but share in the journal and in the chat, what is a full body yes choice that you can commit to here? Like, what is one thing that you're like, I'm going to say yes to this. I'm going to say yes. Could be something you're going to do later today. Could be something you're going to commit to next week, next month, a shift in your life you're going to make. It could be big, it could be small, whatever. So I see Moya says, my job gaslights me. The more I recognize it, the more it infuriates me. Yeah. So situations where somebody else's experience, right, makes us feel like our experience is invalidating. You know, it feels like gaslighting, and or our experience is invalid. It feels like gaslighting. And that can really be hard when it comes to cultivating self-trust, right? Because if you're in a situation where people are downplaying what your lived experience is, or saying it's not a big deal, or perhaps they have a completely different experience to what you had, that can feel really disconcerting. And the more you develop self-trust, the more you are confident in holding the validity of your own experience. And then it's just about the boundary setting from there on. All right, what are you saying yes to? I'm going to say yes to consistently working on my thesis. Congratulations. Going to walk after this, then swim in a hot tub dip. That sounds really nice. I'm saying yes to earlier bedtimes. Yes, I said yes to that last night, and I don't regret it. Yes, I'm going to yoga today. Okay, saying yes to a bike ride and a walk to connect with nature. Going to say yes to starting a new meal prepping journey for better eating. Yes to deep breaths. So beautiful. Asking if you're overthinking general questions just because they don't have the answer. It's okay if you don't have the answer. Like, oh, or is that what you're saying here? Like you don't have the answer to this question, so you feel you're overthinking, or is that what you were experiencing with the gaslighting? Oh, that was about you being at work. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So let's review the roadmap. We've gone through a lot. Self-forgiveness. I forgive myself. Self-acceptance. I accept what I can change. Self-gratitude. I'm grateful for all of the wonderful things. Self-care. I'm committing to action for my most authentic life. And self-trust. I am continuing to develop trust for myself. More modalities. We did a bunch, right? We did journaling, we did affirmations, we did the butterfly tapping, we've done community connection and validation. There's so many more: mindset transformation, manifestation, goal setting, habit transformation, all the healthy body relationship stuff, intuitive eating, holistic nutrition, mindful movement, connecting with your hormones and cycles, nervous system healing, meditation. Some of you have been talking about this in the chat: breath work, mindfulness, energy healing. That was mentioned in the chat. Intuitive development, rituals and spirituality, archetypal psychology and shadow work, my favorite, and astrology, human design. There's so many modalities. All of these modalities are included in our certification course. So the stories that you heard earlier of people being like, I have all these tools now, these are the tools. And you are welcome to explore any tools that you want to. But if you're curious about doing a deeper dive into this work, this is what we cover in our certification. So now we're right on time. We have time for a little Q&A. I know there was a question about having grace with yourself. Do you have tips on giving yourself grace? I mean, I think self-forgiveness is the tip, right? Everything that we talked about today. If you are, I'm curious what the context is if you want to share in the chat, but if you find that you're like holding yourself to unrealistic standards, or you're being really just like holding a lot of pressure on yourself, being really hard on yourself, my advice would be to figure out what is the root of that. Like, where did that come from? And whose pressure really is that? Because you weren't born with it. So is it pressure from the people who raised you? Is it pressure from your lived experience growing up? Is it pressure from, like, what is the external entity? And from there, when you can separate what is not allowing you to have grace for yourself, and you're like, actually, this isn't me. Like, the authentic core self you, the way you were born, can give yourself grace. So there's just something blocking it. You can figure out what that is, and then not exile it. We're not being like, okay, I'm done with that. That's the worst. We're actually going to tend to it with love. Like, what is the unmet need? That's when the transformation happens. And that's some of the deeper shadow work that is necessary for this to happen. And the self-forgiveness is a piece of that. So let me know if that makes sense. And yeah, are there any other questions? Okay, good. I'm glad it makes sense. About the roadmap, about self-love, anything we've talked about today? Tips on allowing yourself to rest. If you are not allowing yourself to rest, I think there's two things here. Either like the life circumstances you're in are that you have very little time, right? So a lot of my ladies who come into my course who have a hard time resting are like just really overburdened single moms, or people who are just juggling a lot, who have a lot on their plate, caring for other people. And especially in the context of like single moms, there's not really very much of it. It's not like you can just like say no to caring to your kids, right? So there are some circumstances, and it's not just with moms, but there are some circumstances where the boundary is just not, it's not available. Like you actually don't actually have the time. And the key in that type of circumstance is a greater step back and to be like, what are the big changes that are within my power that I can begin to make and to work towards a slow adjustment? So is it a career change? Is it a community shift, like cultivating more community? What does that look like? So that's the big shift. If the circumstances are really that you don't have time. If it's that you don't allow yourself to rest because there's a hypervigilance, because I have to be constantly doing something, because if I rest, that means that something's wrong with me. Or when I rest, I suddenly am alone with my thoughts and that's overwhelming. Then you need to look at like, what is the fear of rest? Does it mean that you're lazy? Is that the fear? Is the fear that you have to be alone with yourself? And so then you work on that fear. And so this isn't necessarily, I'm not the kind of coach who's going to be like, well, carve out 15 minutes every morning to give yourself a time to meditate and rest. That you certainly can. But I'm more curious about like, what is the root? Like, why? And then you can move into a place where rest becomes the byproduct of the deeper work that you're doing. So you're not forcing yourself into rest. It becomes easier to rest when you're not hypervigilant, when you're not hyperactive, when you have actual physical space around you or space in your schedule. Let me know if that makes sense. And there's absolutely like you can do little mindset shifts. Like Maya said, I tell myself rest is productive. Yeah, okay, good. Any other questions? Oh, yes, Queen says, I'm a single mom and still in bed. Yes, get it. Good. Absolutely. Yeah, no, you deserve that. We definitely need to rest as moms, as all of us need to rest. Our society is so hyperactive. So we need that time. Our ancestors, all of them, not even that many years ago, just in the past several hundred years, spent a lot of time resting, actually. We're designed for it. All right, any final questions? If anybody feels,
Hello.
okay. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So, not a question, but more of a comment because I'm quite interested in the program, and I was kind of happy to see you, offering it in this format just to get a taste of it. So, I'm grateful that you were doing it in this way. So now I'm more open to even wanting to do the certification course. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I'll put the link to apply in the chat. I definitely recommend that you apply as soon as you're able to. Robin says, thank you, Melanie. It was lovely to see you and everyone on the call. It was great to revisit the roadmap outside of my own personal practice. I'm still learning as I go, even as I coach others. Yeah, same. Me too. So tomorrow we have coaching as a career. So what we're going to talk about tomorrow with our mini course is the core competencies, like the elements that you need in your business in coaching that separates you as an effective coach from other practitioners or just like chatting with friends. I kind of talked about that earlier, right? Like well-meaning advice giving friends, not the same as being a really good coach. How to develop deep attunement and intuitive presence with clients. I'm going to talk about that. We'll talk about essential coaching frameworks to guide transformational conversations, the business foundations for creating a sustainable coaching practice, including how I set up my business for relatively passive income, like how I was able to have a full-on maternity leave with my son and how I'm going to do the same with this baby girl. Ethical considerations and boundaries essential for client safety and success, and how to authentically market yourself as a self-love coach so you can connect with clients and bring people into your work. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. And then the next day will be manifestation. Robin says the self-love coaching program was life-changing. I completely recommend it. Thank you so much, Robin. It's so sweet to have your comments here. So appreciated. And I love that. All right, y'all. I put the link in the chat for the certification program. You all have registered, so you'll receive the Zoom link for tomorrow and we'll be live again. I'll see you there. If anything comes up between now and then, you are more than welcome to send me an email or send me a DM on Instagram. Please be gentle with yourself. Even though we were going through it fast and we have like fun, energetic vibes here, it still is work, like emotional work that we did. And so if you notice that you're feeling a little tender, if you're feeling a little sensitive, for me, after I do emotional work, sometimes I can even get irritable. And so that just tells me that I need to slow down and create a little more space for myself. So drink lots of water, nourish yourself well, tend to yourself with grace and compassion. And I'll see you tomorrow. Blessings to you all. Have a beautiful day. So good to see you. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Tomorrow, same time. Yeah. All right. Bye.